Hey, welcome back to Angler's Life. I'm here with Brian, and we're going to talk about how expensive fishing is. All right, let's get into it, my broke people. Let's get into how much fishing is starting to cost us and what it used to cost back in the days. Now, I don't know if it's because everybody's starting to fish now or it's just business owners have caught on and have hiked up the prices of everything we have to pay for. I mean, are we relying on China for our lures or are we going for the lures that cost $40? That's up to you. I don't know. Forgive me why I drink this tea, but it is getting expensive. What say ye, Brian?
Yeah, I agree. Over the last 10, 15 years, fishing, whether you're buying lures, gear, has just skyrocketed. The fishermen are looking at, back in the day, we used to have, you actually, in my opinion, you had to have skill to, one, find fish and to understand the patterns of fish and things like that. Nowadays, you just drop your trolling motor in the front of it that has the live scope, and you just look around until you find some fish, and then you just kind of throw your lure at them. So, I think that the difference between yesteryear and now, is night and day. And I think that companies are, yeah, this stuff is cool and bells and whistles, but do you really need that to be a successful fisherman?
So what were the rods costing back in the days? Let's get to the nitty gritty. Let's get to what cost money. And so you guys need to know, you guys should know that you need a rod. And sometimes that rod's going to come with the reel. Sometimes it's not. Lines, hooks. There's a lot of shit. But let's start with the rod. What did it used to cost back in the day, Brian?
So you could go get a decent rod back in the day, 20, $30, a really good one. Now you go out there and, you can spend anywhere from, but yeah, you can get rods for $30, but they're very cheap, very inexpensively made, cheap materials, but, they go all the way up to a couple $100 for a rod. And depending on what you're looking for, I mean, it's just like I sometimes go through these
Oh no.
sports stores, and um, it's just you pick up a rod and I'm like, oh, this looks like a pretty good one. You're looking at it, and then you look at the price tag, and it's $350. It goes right back on the rack, But it's like I said, it's crazy on how much things have increased over time. And but like I said, back in the day, $20-$30 could get you a really nice rod.
So he means a good rod, okay? Like a good one that'll last you a while. They still got them for $40-$50. I mean, but are they good? I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I bought myself rods after rods that were like $50-$60, and they were used, but they were some good rods. I'm a big Shakespeare guy, and I think wasn't Shakespeare. No, I'm sorry. Shimano, I think, bought out Shakespeare, or Shakespeare the other way around. But I'm a big Shakespeare guy. It went to Shimano reels. I'm sorry, Shimano poles. I have a few of those from like 20 years ago. They're still good. Now, one did break, so I mean, it is that. It's kind of a comparison like an ugly stick, but I got my, see this one? I'm gonna promote this one day. One of my favorite guys out there, Bill Dance. I got this big ass pole for my son's birthday. That boy's only 1 year old. So I'm gonna try to prepare him for when he gets older and becomes an adult, right? That pole cost me $40. Is it a good pole? I don't know. You get what you purchase, right? It may break on him one day. I don't know. Like that way, buy cheap shit. Hey, you were only 1 year old, still in diapers. I mean, what can I do? I was just trying to hook you up. It's one of those mottos. You teach I'm sorry, give somebody a fish for a day and they eat for the day, right? You teach them how to fish, they eat for the rest of their lives. I figure I just get him something every single year. A cheap pole was one of those. However, back then it probably would be much cheaper to grab this pole. This pole possibly could have costed you $10 to $15.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just saying that I know what I'm getting for that purchase. My Shakespeare back in the day that I purchased, it was probably like $90. And back in the day with inflation, now it'd probably be like 160. I mean, remember when the burger was 99 cents, 25 cents? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the inflation cost.
Yeah.
What about the reels? And you can speak to what is it? Is it the bait casting reel? Is
Yeah.
that the one that you like?
Yeah.
Speak to those, because I know you bought me 2 before, and I had like this bumblebee nest, and I'm like, here you go, man. You can have this. I cannot figure this one out. It was pissing me off too.
I was trying to convert you.
I tried. I at least tried, but man, it was.
We did. So I prefer bait casting just because I just like them better than the spin open face spinning reels. Anyways, you can get a good bait casting reel that if you're just out for every day, just kind of going out for anywhere from $50 to maybe $100. The ones that I had got that he's referring to were Cast Kings. I bought them off of Amazon, and they, I got them. I've been using them ever since, and they seem to be pretty good. But I did get one from my brother-in-law after he passed. My sister kind of gave me some of his fishing gear, and he actually had a bait casting reel from Browning Guns. They also, I didn't even know they manufactured fishing gear, and that reel, I don't know how what it cost, but that reel, it's not my favorite reel. The action is smooth on it. The casting, it doesn't backlash like a lot of them do, but it's just a basic cast. There's nothing, no special, well, no special items on it. No special, it doesn't have any bells and whistles on it. It's just a straight break. It's got your break and your drag, and that's it. But like I said, it casts beautifully, and I love it. It's just one of those things that it's just like I said, it's a basic reel, nothing fancy about it. And I think that as people they start looking at reels, they start looking. I mean, yeah, you should look at gear ratio, stuff like that, to what you're fishing in.
Yes,
but
that makes a difference, man. It does make a difference.
But the thing of what I'm saying though is when you start looking at these reels that have digital outputs of how much line you have and other
Yeah,
all the little stuff, they're starting to put all these little bells and whistles on
a little too much additive in there.
Yeah, and it's like, do you really need that? Do you really need those reels? A lot of people buy them. They're out there. They're out there for a reason. But I just think it's money that for a basic fisherman, you don't really need to spend that kind of stuff.
Think about it this way: it's how bikes and things that have gears work. It's all about that bearing. Look for one that puts the right bearings in the right gear lube inside of those things. And I think the more bearings, the better for you. It'll just spin a lot easier versus like 4 to 6. It'll just spin more faster if it's a little bit more. That's my opinion to it. But those like the ones he has, man. If anybody were to give me one right now, I'd pitch it like a baseball against the wall. I do not have a belief in it. He does. I've seen him fish, and I've seen professional fishermen fish it. Kudos to them. And I think it is a better way to fish, or I would say it's a much easier way to fish versus open cast, which I can, but that's a skill to it. There's a skill to how you're throwing. I can pretty much sit down and throw. I can throw maybe like, I don't know, how many yards do you think I can chuck it out there, Brian? I don't know if you see me chuck it every now and then.
You get it out there pretty good.
I mean, I can do it anywhere, sitting down, but It's the gear. I'm always looking at the gear ratio. Let me see. I know he said, like, I'm looking at this Bill Dance. Bill, I don't know why you put your name on a Walmart brand, but it is what it is. Because isn't Quantum, what is it? Quantum, isn't that a Walmart brand? So the gear ratio is a 5.2:1. 5.2 and a 1. Line capacity in the yards 270. And it's a 40. It's a pretty big guy. I get medium heavy. Heavy is just too much. And I'm going for bass. I'm going for bigger fish. And I don't want to do a medium. And by that, I mean that on the pole. On the pole, you'll see it on there. For those of our kid fans that shouldn't be on here to begin with, but if you're watching this, look on the bottom of the pole. Right here, it tells you all the information about that pole. Now, is this a fishing pole for a 1-year-old? Fuck yeah, it is. But it's not going to work for him, right? You know, I seen well, I don't know if that was a 2-year-old. Brian just sent me a video, and this kid fucking pulling in a smallmouth bass. Now that was impressive with the damn bit, whatever that thing is in his mouth.
Yeah, it's binky.
It's like looking at Popeye bringing in some fish, man. It was pretty cool.
Yeah.
The next thing we're looking at is your line and your hooks. Now the line and hooks, it all depends. So everybody has their own feel on the lines. I like red colored lines. The translucent ones are okay. I don't like the ones that I like the ones that take away the refraction of the lights. I don't know about you, Brian.
Yeah.
Maybe you like the light on some lines. You know what I mean? So if it's sunny, partially sunny, if you have a line sticking out, that line will travel straight through that light will travel straight through that line like a fucking rainbow. And I don't know if that's good for the fish or not. I use a red line, preferably, if I can. If not, that's another thing that you need to take into consideration. And you need to know what style of fish, what types of fish you're looking to fish, because then you have to get to the pound, the pound ratios of what you're going to go for. Now, what do you have a preference on, Brian?
I usually use a blue filament line. Again, so like to your point, lines that don't refract the light as much. And I usually use, on average, anywhere from 12 to 15 pound test. That's usually what I have on the Browning that I have. I actually have braided line on that one, because it casts so nicely. I went with a braided line on that.
What is the cost of that braided line? My
Um,
lines usually cost like $20.
yeah, braided line. It's not that much more. It can run like 20 to 30 bucks for a spool. I still have my 15 pound test. That I have the blue filament. It's I think it's a 300 yard spool, and that cost me about $150.
Is it like a fluorocarbon?
Yeah, but like I said, it's 300 some yards of line, so that'll last me probably my whole life.
Hey, Brian,
Mhm.
for the people out there, we have fishing poles can run you up to $200-$300. It all depends. And I think the biggest one is going to be the reel. The reel can run you up to $300 as well. The line is another thing. Now, for you, Brian, do you change your lines out every year or every other year?
I change it out every year.
I do every other year, but it should be changed every year. If you're doing it every year, and it also depends on if you're fishing, but it will wear out. You're going to need to change it. So it sucks, but do it, because if it snaps on you, be like, fuck, you didn't change that. You should have changed that line, or it was just too big for it.
And a lot of things that some tricks for people putting the line, when you put your line on, especially a spinning reel. You put it on and you go to cast it, and it's plastic line, not talking about braided line, but the regular fishing line has a memory, and when they put it on the spool at the factory, they gets really tight. So as it sits on the shelf, that that plastic remembers that coil pattern. It's kind of like almost puts it like in like a spring, and it remembers that thing. So if you want to, a trick to keeping getting your line straight is you take that line and put it in really hot water and let it soak for about 30, 40 minutes before you put it on your reel. But you do that, what happens is you actually relax that line and you get rid of that memory that it has. It just kind of when you put it on your line, it'll stay straight. So that's a tip for those of you that are, especially if you're using like cheaper brands like Spider and those type of brands. They have a tendency to really hold that memory of being on that spool. So soak it in hot water, really hot water, and not boiling, but turn on your faucet, get it as hot as it can, fill up a tub and throw the spool in there, let it sit for about 30 minutes, 30 40 minutes, take it out, and when you put it on your reel, it won't have that memory. Look at
So he's talking about you ever have a fishing line and it looks all wavy?
yeah,
That's yeah,
yeah,
that's what it is. It looks all wavy. That's what he's talking about.
yeah. The other way that you can do it, the old school way, besides putting in the water, my grandfather used to do is after we put line on a reel, we'd tie a swivel to the end of the line, and then we would put it out in the water and take the boat like almost like we were trolling with no lure on it, and we'd run the line completely out till you got to the tie where it's tied onto the spool of your reel. Run it completely out and just pull it through the water for like 10 minutes, maybe 5 to 10 minutes. And by doing that, what you're doing is you're stretching that line. You stretch that line out, and it does the same thing. It takes that memory right out of it, and you can just reel it in, and you won't have that. Your line will be perfectly straight. So that's another way you can do it if you have access to a boat and you don't have time to you don't want to sit there and wait for the 30 minutes. You just want to put it on. You can go out your boat, let that line completely out, let it just troll with it like for about 5 10 minutes, and then back in, and that line will stretch, and you'll get rid of that coiled memory in it. So
So that line is going to cost you up to almost what, $50? It all depends on how much you're going to get.
yeah, it depends, and like I said, it also depends on the brand and the quality of it. Because there's cheaper brands and there's more expensive brands. The more expensive brands, of course, are your stronger. They're stronger. They're made better. And
And
go
we
ahead.
recommend you start off if you got to get Walmart, if you got to order on Amazon, if you want to order from our store, we recommend that you start there. Because then it's like somebody who starts to drive. You're not going to give them a fucking Ferrari. You know what I mean? Here's this 2004 Honda Civic right here, and have at it. Because then you make your mistakes, but when you start getting better, you're starting to see what's valuable. Like, I'm going to need this, I'm going to need that. And you start to take ownership of that fishing, but it's going to cost money throughout the years. I would say you'd spend $10,000 to $20,000. I would say throughout the years. First, that fishing license. We're talking about what? How much you think it is? $15 to $50. It all
Yeah,
depends if you're non-resident.
like I said, it depends on the state. Like we live in Illinois. The fishing license for a year is $15, but you can buy a lifetime one now in Illinois, which they didn't offer for more for 350.
Hope
So
I find that in Texas.
yeah, so it's in Arkansas again that they have a lifetime there. I think theirs is like 650. It's a little more expensive, but better fishing down there.
Is it non-resident or resident?
Resident.
Okay,
You can get one non-resident as well, but it's a
it's
lot more.
cost another $100.
Yep, a couple hundred. Yeah.
And then you have your hooks and your sinkers and like your swivels. Those are going to be cheap, except for when you have the hooks. They have the leaders on them. They have the steel leaders. Those are a little bit more. Like Eagle Claw sells a lot of those. But the swivels, make sure you have swivels. They come in handies. The little snaps, the little snap things where you can snap stuff. Make sure
Yeah,
you have that.
and there's different ones of those too. There's different styles of those, and depending on what you're looking at, They can go from like $1 to for 10 to $5 for 4. So it all depends on the style that you're getting and what you're using them for. So
The next thing, lures is one. It's one thing, but every time you go fishing, if you're like us, you got to take live bait. That runs you $5 to $15 depending on how long you're staying out there. And if you're with buddies and everybody else, the cost is just going to go it's going to go higher because you're going to want some live bait. Now, worms, live bait like worms and minnows, they can go up to $15 a container. It all depends on what the bait is. Like the minnows, man, can cost you a certain amount for a certain amount of pounds. It can the worms can be like in those little cases where they're like $5. And remember, the prices are going up on all this stuff. So it's not like it's getting cheaper.
yeah.
Back then, I'd get it for like $1 or $1.99. I remember that, the little thing of worms, or I just go dig that shit up.
That's what I'm gonna say. He's
I
like,
mean, it's
go dig it up. Yep.
but
And
now it's like $5.
like a lot of times, if you're a serious fisherman, and you want to have your own bait, you don't want to go pay for it. Like Mark was saying, you can throw some mulch down in your garden bed, and you can grow your own worms. Get a little worm farm going for you, and you go out there and just they're free then. One of the things that I was a kid that I used to do to get worms to come up to the surface without digging is you get yourself a big pot of soapy water and go out to the yard and pour it down, pour it in the yard and just wait. And within 5 minutes, here come the worms. They come up out of the ground. You just pick them up.
I thought he was gonna say, like, you know how you have the fucking jellyfishes that sting you to go take a piss. I thought he was gonna say something like that, egregious like that.
No.
But I'm going to read a little bit of a list of a few more things as we, um, push towards ending this podcast with you guys concerning how expensive it can get. I mean, we can talk about the boats and everything else. That's a lot more expense, but this is more so for those that are starting out and those that are in it. We're all the people that are in it, and you guys fish. You guys know exactly what we're talking about. How it's just gotten more expensive for you that are just starting. Let me just share with you, okay? Here, let me give you some numbers, and from there we'll wrap it up. So we started with the fishing rods. Let's just and let me tell you something. The cheapest one, yeah, I got that thing for $40. But you want to know how much those fly fishing rods cost? Those bad boys cost a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
They can run up to almost $700. Let's say if that's what you want to do. That you better think about that one because that one costs a lot of money. It is fun though. It's very, very fun to fish that. I mean, talk about waders and stuff like that. But let's just say you want to just regular fishing. The low end, you're spending like $30, $40 for cheap. The higher end, you're spending up to $500. Okay. You're spending your reels, your bait caster reels, your fly fishing reels. Now, fly fishing reels also are expensive. The fly fishing is super expensive. Those reels are almost $500. So we're going to go from a reel can be up to $20 to $500. If you find that thing at Walmart for $15, or you look in our store, the Survive and Thrive store, we're going to have an Anglerz section there for you. And on Anglerz, it'll be nothing but fishing. You might find one there for $15. I might put on clearance. I don't know. Fishing lines from the monofilament and the fluorocarbon lines. You're talking about from $5 to $50 the spool. Now those are the small spools. There's bigger ones and they cost more. The hooks and like a tackle box, or the hooks and the tackle box also. What? Oh man, what your tackle box? The one we got you, it was not. It's a bag. That was $60. Those things run up to $200,
Yep.
and their compartments and everything. You should invest in one of those. That's got to be your main thing to invest in. Like you want to, like I have a podcast on like urban survival and stuff. Your main thing for that is a bug out bag. Same thing for fishing. Your main thing is going to be that tackle box. Tackle box is going to be like your bug out bag. Your pole is going to be like your sword, your gun, your arm. That's what you're going to need. But that you're looking at let's say $100 for that. You can find a cheap one, $25. We'll go there with that. But the swivels and the hooks, we'll just leave that one at $20. We won't say too much for that because it all depends on what you're going to use. Lures and baits. Don't get me started with those because those bad boys can start from $2, or like me, I buy certain big stuff, and they can end up to be like $50. Man, they can be a lot more than that. I mean, I got this huge one, but I got it at a flea market, so you kind of got to figure out where you're going to go. We already talked about tackle boxes, fishing net, in the fishing carriers. I
Right.
mean, those things are like $50. Those things are like $80. You know, there's like those yellow things where you have it in the water, so your fish are not getting away. You can put them in there, or is that the one for the bait, or is it for the fishes?
That's you're talking about bait bucket.
Yeah, that one for the bait. But there's also the buckets for the fishes, you can put the fishes in. I just saw that at Bass Pro Shop. I think was it yesterday? Was it yesterday we went? 2 days ago. Speaking to the wife over here. We just went over there because we want to take our son to go hang out. He loved it. You have pliers, you have cutters, knives. Well, just say that's $30, $30 to $50. If you want to wear a fishing hat, I would suggest you have a fishing hat. I mean, if you don't have something like this, get yourself a nice one. Spray, because you're gonna get bit. That's like $20 for both of those things. If you're gonna get a fishing vest, which I suggest for some of you that if you go fly fishing, you get yourself one of those. For the rest of you guys, if you guys want those, they're like $20. Fly fishing ones are like $80. They cost a little bit more. Fly fishing is just another animal, which I want to do, but I kind of don't want to do because it costs so much. Gloves, if you're the person that wants to use gloves, $10 to $30. Electronic gear, if you're on that boat, fishing gear, they can run up to $2,000 to $3,000. Right, Brian? That one right there costs you some money on that boat. And yes, here's the thing. You should, if you're going to fish on a boat, you should get one of those because you're going to go aimlessly on that lake or on that river thinking that, oh, I'm just going to do this, and you're just going to waste your time. If you're going to seriously fish and you want to take it serious, I mean, and you're on a boat, I would highly invest in those. If you have GPS navigation 500, a fishing camera, people have that as well. I had that when I used that when I was what do you call that? Ice fishing. Put the camera in there and you look around and be like, yep, we're in the right spot. I mean, I have a total right here. This is just a total of all these things each. Let's assume that all these are like at mid price between all those. Okay, let's just assume all of that. I have here, and this is including if you're for the people on the boat. If you're on that boat and you're using that equipment, then all of that it'll cost you around $4,000. 4,000. If you're gonna just go all in. If you're gonna start off, go a little at a time, it'll cost you maybe $150, $200. But if you went and bought that without a boat, you're looking at $1,500. It got expensive. It got really expensive, people. And I'm talking about to be ready for that. Now, fly fishing rods and all that stuff, that's just another animal on its own. Boating is another animal. Boating with fishing, another animal on its own. It costs a lot of money to fish. Don't let that deter you, though. You can still do it for under $100, but it's not going to be fancy. Work from there and start from there. Build up, do the best you can, and have fun. But when you start to get serious about it, learn the land, learn the water, learn the seasons, learn your equipment. That's all you can do. Just like somebody who owns a firearm, you have to train on it. You got to train with that fishing rod. You got to go out there and figure out, okay, if I do this, this is the reaction I get from my rod. If I'm doing this, I'm catching a fish. I'm looking at the bet. I'm looking at everything going on. I'm looking at I'm setting the tension and everything. You're looking at everything. You're training. It just makes you a better fisherman. You're going to be angling out there like a professional sooner or later. So anything you want to share with us, Brian? Anything else?
Yeah, just like Mark said, I'm old school, so I just enjoy going out and being on the lake, whether I catch anything or not. But so for me, it's just fishing is a fairly simple, thing for me to do. And what I mean by that is just like I like I said, I give me a pole, give me some lures, and I'm good. But I was I was telling Mark earlier that I was on just reading some on some of the blogs that I'm on, and guys were talking about how expensive fishing was getting, and they were talking about the live scopes and all that stuff, and how yeah, they're great, but they wish that they were a little cheaper. Because you can spend a couple grand on like what Mark said, a couple grand on those, and some of them are the size of a small television, and it's just for me, it's I hope that the next generation of fishermen um, understand that you don't need all the bells and whistles to be a successful fisherman. You gotta learn, like back in the day when I used to go fishing with my grandfather. Yeah, he spent a lot of time on the water, so he knew the lake really well, and he had his spots that he, just over time he learned the pattern of the fish and how they in the spring walleye. For example, let's talk about walleyes for a second. Walleyes will move into the creek channels and the pre-spawn, so he would he would know to go to those creek channels and 55 feet to 45 feet deep, and he knew where those fish were. So I think that if you really look at how to if you learn the patterns of fish and you learn the old school way, you can rely on yourself, and you don't really need all that fancy equipment. Is all I'm saying. Yeah, like Mark said, you will chase fish. You'll be out there. There'll be days you don't catch anything, but but that's how you learn. How you that's how you learn and you develop. Especially if you go to the same lake every day. Like I said, there's this little pond down this small lake that I go to all the time, and I've learned that lake and I know where the spots are, and I can go down there and usually catch a fish or two when I go. Um, and it's like right now I've been there a couple times. The water's still about is still in the well, I haven't been in about a week, but when I was going it was about 48 degrees, so it's still really cold. But when that water starts getting up to 52, 55, those fish are, I had a couple bites and stuff, but not like I normally do. When that water gets to 52, 55, those fish are really going to start hitting. And now this week has been warm, so that water's going to start, if we have a couple warm nights, water temperatures are going to start really going up. And those are the type of things you got to know. Those are the type of things you got to look at when you want to do fishing cheap. You got to learn the old school ways. And I encourage fish guys that are young kids that are getting into it to learn old school ways. Yeah, great. Get Garmin stuff and Lowrance and all that stuff is really awesome. But get yourself go to Mark and I talked about a couple podcasts ago about going to swap meets or where you go and they have the guys have all kinds of old lures and stuff like that. You can go there and pick up some lures for a couple bucks and go try them. And I just encourage people to learn those techniques, because when you learn those techniques and you really start watching the water, for what my grandpa used to say, look, watch for action, and that's just fish feeding on the surface. When you start seeing that, you can start reading the fish. You can start reading where the patterns, where they're at, and you can be successful, just as successful that way as you can with all the bells and whistles. So that's all I have to say. And I just hope that, like I said, that some younger fishermen out there that they learn those skills. Like pro fishermen, they didn't rely. They learn those school ways too, and they know where to look for fish. And yeah, when you get to those spots, yeah, then you can use your fancy equipment. And, yep, nope, nothing here. Let's go over to this area over here that I've been watching. So it's just you still gotta, in my opinion, you still gotta learn those old school ways. So
When he says old school, it's because we were born in the late 1900s, people. So
oh, might... 1800s for me, Mark.
So let me give you the top 6 reasons, and we'll call it quits on this one, guys. The top 6 reasons I see right here, and it's a little excerpt that I saw online is inflation. That's one reason. Technological advancements. Fishing gear has seen considerable advancements in materials, construction, techniques and features over the past few decades. I'm just reading through some of this stuff. It's better drag systems, smoother bearings, durable material. It's leading to higher prices for newer, more technologically advanced equipment. 3 is the market demand and competition. Increased demand for fishing equipment coupled with more players in the market can lead to both higher and lower prices depending on the specific product. This is happening right now. The environmental regulations. I mean, things are changing in the environment, and people that regulate it, they're changing too. Online retail and direct sales. Amazon, us, we sell stuff. I mean, Walmart sells it. And then specialization and customization. There are people that like to customize their stuff, and you can. This is like reasons why it soared up. And we just say, hey, you can still fish out there. Just know it got expensive. So with that, Brian.
Until next time, guys, keep your lines tight.
All right, let's see you guys on the next one.
Have a good one.